One thing I want to let you know is I did pre-sign all the books. So, once you get your book, you can go if you want to. They are pre-signed and numbered. If you want to hang out and get it personalized, I'll be sitting here until we're done. And that can go pretty early in the morning sometimes, so I'll warn you ahead of time. That's why I pre-signed them at these things, so you are welcome to take off at any point.
Hey friends, so I am here at my local Barnes & Noble. Today Brandon Sanderson's doing his release day signing at the Barnes & Noble in Orem, Utah. It is now 10:15 in the morning. I have spent all morning in line to get my wristband for this particular event. He's a really popular author. He lives nearby, so his events usually get pretty packed. So I thought I would be pretty quick in and out this morning. That wasn't the case. And the other thing that's a total bummer is that I don't get to just read the book all day long while waiting for the event, because they're holding them hostage for this event tonight, which makes me super sad, actually, because I totally planned on like reading a good chunk of it before the event tonight so I could actually like ask questions pertaining to Skyward, but that's not going to be the case. So now that I have my wristband, I'm going to go to work. I'll insert pictures of the line here. I was person like 115, and my wristband's like 200 and something. So it's gonna be a big event tonight at this tiny Barnes & Noble. So it'll be really interesting. I'm gonna try to jet over as soon as I'm done at work so that I can get a halfway decent seat and be able to actually hear him. So that's my plan at this point. But the other thing I'm going to do is we do have the Audible audiobook. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to download it and I'm going to listen to it as long as I can today. So again, I can ask questions pertaining to Skyward that wouldn't necessarily be spoilery since most of us won't have read it yet. So, hey guys, so it's about 4:30, 4:45 in the afternoon. I'm just stopping to get me some late lunch, early dinner. And then I'm going to head over to the event and just kind of hang at Barnes & Noble. You know, there's plenty of things I can keep myself entertained with and occupied with while I'm there. So I have been getting into Claim the Stars. Claim the Stars is the actual title. Skyward is the series. But I'm really enjoying it. I have to say, like, it's good. It's really good. I'm really liking the tone of this narrative quite a bit. I really like Spencer as our character. She's really engaging, and I'm just really kind of here for it, honestly. So anyways, that's kind of my plan for the next little bit. I might vlog a little bit while I'm waiting at the event. I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, they did offer a companion pass, but I decided to not pick one up because I figured most of my friends who wanted to be at this event would have like already been taking care of it, so I didn't worry about picking up that and gave somebody else the chance to get a wristband instead. So I'm hoping that pays off. My wristband's like number 200, so I'm gonna be there for a while tonight. But yeah, I do plan on, you know, vlogging some of his talk, maybe some of his Q&A. He always usually what he does at these kind of events is he reads an excerpt and then he answers some questions. So at least that's what he did last time I came to an event like this. So I'm hoping it goes well. I'm hoping I get a decent seat. We'll see. I don't know. I might be able to talk to the people at Barnes & Noble, let them know I have a channel and that I'd like to be up close for that reason. I don't know. Barnes & Noble's kind of weird about stuff like that, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening.
We're good. We're good. It's good. We're good. I'll just stay over here. Don't worry about it. He's traipsing through the forest, and it seems like it's taking forever, this long and arduous journey. And then right at the end, right, the guy tries to shoot him in the back. Indiana Jones just turns around, whips that gun out of his hands, and he doesn't even look annoyed. He's just like, whatever, dude. What this movie is doing is it's indicating to us Indiana Jones is just larger than life. He is the ultimate square-jawed action hero. Being betrayed is nothing new to him. Traipsing through the jungle is nothing new to him. You know what happens next? Spiders, no big deal. Giant rocks that almost crush you, whatever. I can deal with this. I'm Indiana Jones. Trying to get the idol off the altar and he goes through all of this, and at the end, someone waltzes along and takes it from him. And this is where the movie gets really interesting, because it's saying, yeah, look how great and awesome Indiana Jones is. Look how incredible of an action star he is. He has done everything right. He has done a really wonderful job. He's stretched himself to the edge of his limits, and it still wasn't enough, and he failed. He got the glue gun and the duct tape, and he wanted to put together this fort. And I was looking at these pieces of cardboard he got, and they did not have a lot of structural integrity. He had great imaginings. He felt very strongly about this, so I got the glue gun and I started helping him. But I knew all along this was not going to work. And I felt an impending, looming sense of sort of doom as we glued the different pieces together. He's like, and this one goes here. I'm like, it's not going to stand. So it's not going to stand. How is he going to react when this thing falls down? We worked on it for a good half hour, 45 minutes, and he set it all up to go, and it just collapsed. It just fell to pieces. And I just kind of sat there quietly, kind of paranoid to see how he'd react. He's 8 years old. He looked at his little brother, who had been helping us out. He looked back at the destroyed fort, and he said, "We get to destroy it!" And then started stomping through it and smashing the pieces. His little brother started grabbing them. They started hitting each other with them. And, cardboard flying everywhere. And I'm like, he understands, at least in this one moment, he understands that sometimes it's okay to fail. It came in and it came together. And I couldn't, I think, have had that experience of Skyward coming together if I first hadn't had the experience of the Apocalypse Guard falling apart. When I sat down to write Way of Kings, the 2009 version, I instilled a sort of ideal into it. One of the ideals of the Knights Radiant. And this was an ideal that had been heavy on my mind because of having failed at writing this book and now approaching it again. And being a different person now approaching it again. It was the idea that the journey is more important than the destination. This is another way of kind of rephrasing this idea that what the journey does to you is the important part. What writing a book does to you, what trying a new experience, what going someplace new, what trying to play a musical instrument and failing horribly does, is change you into someone who's had that experience, and that is the journey. And so if you are ever having writer's block, if you're feeling like, I don't know what to do with this story, my suggestion to you is, don't stress about it. Just write anything. Have ninjas attack. Have a pie eating contest. Do something that you know is not going to end up in the book because it doesn't matter. That chapter, that scene you're writing is not the product. The person you become by exploring that idea is the product. And the only way to fail at writing a book is to not actually try to do so.
Hey guys, sorry the lighting is super bad here for a minute, but the event is finally over. It's 9:40 at night, and there were still 300 wristbands behind me. So it'll be really interesting. Poor Brandon's probably going to be there till a good 2 or 3 in the morning, maybe later, but he's a real trooper. The event was really fun. I made lots of really fun friends tonight. I had a blast, and yeah, so I've got my signed and personalized copy. I asked him a couple of questions. They were all kind of vague answers because I asked about the secret project, and because of copyright, he can't tell me what's up. And then I asked when I'm going to get my Warbreaker to Stormlight Archive crossover book. When the next book gets written, I'll get my answers, but he doesn't know when that's going to be, of course. And then I asked him his writing lineup for next year, but I have to wait till Stated Sanderson for that. So no real big answers from me. Tonight he talked a lot about writer's block in his talk, and it was really interesting to me. I've put in a few clips, so hopefully you guys enjoy what he had to say as much as I did. And I didn't really record the whole thing just because I wanted to experience it for myself. One thing I have to say about this event is that it was so crowded that, like, for the Q&A portion, they didn't set up chairs or anything. So people were sitting on the floor or standing, and it just was uncomfortable. So he had mentioned previously that he wasn't going to be doing events like this at small places like Barnes & Noble so much anymore, especially for a release for a new novel. He's usually said he's going to do those in, like, bigger, like, stadium, almost auditorium kind of things, just because so many people want to come and see and talk to him. But yeah, he still did it here. It took him a while before things started to run more smoothly, but once it did, it was great. Once they finally kind of got their rhythm going, it went well. But yeah, lighting is crappy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the audiobook on, listen to that on the way home, and then I'll probably stay up and read a little bit. But I'm getting a little munchy because I ate so early. So I might grab me a light snack at home and a drink, go upstairs, read for a little bit. And then most of my reading thoughts will probably be, tomorrow's such a crazy day at work that I don't even know the next time I'll be able to check in. It might not even be till I'm done. I'm not 100% sure. But all I know is I am super loving what I've listened to so far. I've listened to the first, 6 chapters. I like the narrator. I like the tone of voice that our character has. And it's going to be great. I'm really excited about it. So we'll talk again soon. All right. So it is actually Thursday now. I didn't read very much yesterday because work was insane. And I got sucked down a webcomics tangent rabbit hole. So anyways, I am slowly working my way through Skyward. I'm kind of savoring this read because it's going to be like my last Sanderson for a while. So I'm taking my time with it. I am 177 pages into this 500-page book at this point. So I just finished part 2 of this book. And there's so much about this book that I am totally here for. When it comes to this book, Brandon isn't pulling his punches, and I like that. Characters have died, like characters that you grew attached to died. That had, the main character had grown attached to, and we're not even 200 pages into this book. And the prejudices shown to our main character are really interesting to me. I don't think that they're prejudices just for prejudice sake. For those of you who don't know the plot of Skyward, essentially this girl, branded as a traitor, is doing everything in her power to get into flight school. Her family and her, live in the lowest of low society because her father was branded a traitor when she was 7. I still have my suspicions that he's not really a traitor. He covered for somebody, or somebody else was a traitor and took him out because he was killed in the battle, that he was branded a traitor. And I have my ideas as to who would have betrayed him, and it makes me sad because I like this particular character. But it's very much set up that he could potentially be the person who is the cataclysm of all of it. But anyway, I digress. I really like his writing in this. It's easily accessible like most of his novels, but it still has depth to it. And I really like that. I'm at the point where I've met our sassy AI. Brandon talks very candidly about how there's a sassy AI in this book. And I've met that character now. And I really like it. That's all I'm going to say at this point. I can't really give you much more than that without spoiling things. And I'm trying to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. But yes, at the end of part 2, I'm like, Brandon's not pulling his punches. And I'm really glad. I know Brandon is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And there's cursing in this novel. And that's something that they're very strongly they don't do. I mean, that's just religiously, that's not something that they necessarily promote. They encourage you to not. So I was surprised when I found that in the novel. I'm not mad per se. I think it worked perfectly for the situation that it was in. But, you know, you're not going to be dealing with excessive language in this one. So if you're very sensitive to language, this is going to be, all of Brandon's writing is going to be better for that. But yes, I am thoroughly loving this book so far. It's probably going to be one of my favorite reads of the year, not just because it's a Brandon Sanderson, but just because it's solid and it's good. At the signing, Brandon talked about how this book came about because he failed at another book. He was supposed to be writing another book in his Reckoner series, or at least in that same world, and it was called The Apocalypse Guard. That's what ended up failing. He wrote the book, and, you know, it had been submitted for publishers, it had a cover, and he just kept not finding out what was wrong with it. There were things wrong with the world and things wrong with the characters initially. And so he talked about how that it just didn't work, so he pulled it. But because of that, he came back to his Skyward project and everything fell into place. And I'm so glad he pulled the Apocalypse Guard and found this book, because I liked the concept for Apocalypse Guard okay, but this is something I needed. Like, books like Apocalypse Guard, I feel like are a dime a dozen right now, and maybe that's why he felt like it wasn't working, because it's a very popular concept. But, you know, space stories are really popular right now too. But this one, it has notes of Flight of the Navigator and Top Gun and How to Train Your Dragon and Ender's Game, like these big things, even references to like Indiana Jones movies. Like, this is such an epic, fun story. And I'm not even 2/5 of the way through this. Like, I'm maybe 1/3 of the way through this at this point. And I'm loving it. Like, hardcore loving it. I'm loving the characters. I'm loving this space world that we're in. There's this character called a Doomslug that is just amazing. The main character has made the Doomslug her mascot, and I love it. And it's fantastic. I feel like I'm fangirling and just gushing for no reason. Like, that's the way it's coming across, but I promise this book is seriously solidly good. And if you like audiobooks, the audiobook narrator is great. Because what I've been doing is I've been going back and forth between the audiobook and the actual book, because I couldn't get my actual copy until, you know, that evening at the signing event. So my husband had pre-ordered the audiobook and it dropped at midnight. So what I did is during the day, on and off, I would listen to the audiobook. And then as I've been commuting, I will usually end up listening to a chapter or almost a chapter in my commute, because the chapters aren't super long typically. There's been a few that have been a little longer, but they're typically 10-ish pages, so they're not too bad. So at that point, I am just kind of living for this. It's fantastic. I'm trying to take it slow and marinate on it so that I can give a good, solid, thorough review when I'm done. Now, if you are big fans of like his epic fantasy stuff, this is a very, very different story. So if that's what you're expecting walking into this, you're going to be disappointed. When it comes to Brandon's young adult novels, as opposed to, you know, things like the Reckoners trilogy, writing-wise, this feels more like the Reckoners than it does like Mistborn or any of his other epic fantasies that you hear a lot about on BookTube. So if that's what you're expecting walking into this, you are going to be disappointed. This is very geared towards a young adult audience. And so the writing is different than you'll find in an adult novel. Brandon is good at gearing his writing to his audience. Mistborn is technically an adult novel, but a lot of YA audiences really love it, so it's marketed in both places. So that one kind of goes back and forth, and so people are just kind of all over the place with that. But the Reckoners trilogy, the first book being Steelheart, is geared specifically toward a young adult audience. That is what it was written for, what it was designed for. Skyward is like that. So if you like his fantasy, but you didn't necessarily like the Reckoners, you might not like Skyward. Granted, I think this story is way better in Skyward than the Reckoners trilogy. I liked the Reckoners trilogy, don't get me wrong. You know, the first book got 4 stars. The second book got 4.5 stars, and the third book got 4 stars. So it's a solid series for me. I really enjoyed it, but it's not my favorite Sanderson series. You know, I like his Cosmere stuff a lot better than I like the Reckoners. But this is on another level even from that. You can tell how his writing has evolved since he wrote that series. And that series only finished like 2, almost 3 years ago. So it's not been that long. But I am seriously, like, I can tell the difference in the writing, and it's better. I like it better. Hey guys, I know it's a little grainy right now. Sorry, not the best lighting in the world. But it is now Sunday. It's been a while since I vlogged anything on this video, but I also haven't read that much since we last talked. So I have now finished part 3. I believe there's 5 parts in this book. Brandon likes to work in 5-part acts, kind of a thing. So I'm really loving this. This book makes me think a lot. Some things that I thought were going to happen are still leading that way, so I still think my instincts are right on this book. So I'm going to dig in, read a good chunk tonight. It's Sunday night. It's like, well, Sunday evening. It's like 5:15, 5:30, somewhere in that range of time. And I'm excited to dig in and get another chunk read. I could have read a lot more today, but my husband's not been feeling well, and so I've kind of had things that were easier to put down just so I can help make sure he's okay. But I also filmed a video and edited that. I've got it ready to upload. I'll upload that here soon. And yeah, so the goal is to finish this by the end of tomorrow, which should be pretty easy considering I am almost 300 pages into a 500-page book. And if I read, you know, even slow for me, that's doable. So anyways, I'm really excited because I'm really loving this, and I want to give you my full thoughts here at the end. I'll probably check in again when I get done with part 4, and we'll kind of discuss things from there, at least what I can. Like I say, I'm trying to keep this super spoiler-free still, but still sharing my thoughts. But all in all, I'm really glad that Apocalypse Guard didn't work out so that we got this book, because this book is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite Brandons. Definitely his favorite YA. Like, his favorite non-adult novel is Skyward for me right now. I can say that without a shadow of a doubt. Even though I really liked the Reckoner series, I'm loving Skyward. I think it's the space book I needed right now. So many people have tried space books, and they've not worked out well for me. I have not read Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn, which is like Jane Eyre in space. I haven't read that one yet, but I've heard good things about that one, so I'm hoping to get my hands on that one relatively soon. But I've got a huge back pile on my TBR, so I'm trying to not buy too many books through the end of the year and read what's on my shelf and things. So anyhow, yes, let's dig into Skyward. So I just finished chapter 43. I kind of want to cry right now. I am freaking out a little bit. Brandon's really being mean to me right now. There's so much that happened in that particular chapter alone that I'm kind of freaking out about. Understanding of things is happening. There is a part of me that is so sad right now. But a part of me that is, I want to melt down and kind of like freak out a little bit. These last few chapters have been really heavy. Not in a bad way, but just a lot of emotional changes in our character, and I feel like I'm feeling them with her. I'm a very sympathetic reader in that way, as in my main protagonists, I typically feel the emotions along with them as I read, so I'm freaking out a little bit. I want to cry. There's a lot going on, good and bad, and it's just more proof that Brandon's a genius, and I don't call many authors genius. And I'm not being biased when I say this. It's not just because he's one of my favorite authors. Like, this just proves his storytelling brilliance. But he writes it in a simple enough way that it's easily accessible to people, and that's part of what I love about him. He doesn't drown it in a lot of complicated or flowery language. It's very simple, cut and dry. This is what's going on. And he pulls at every emotion you could possibly have in this book. And I continue to love my read of it, and I continue to enjoy the journey that is Skyward. Okay, friends, so I just finished Skyward, and this is literally the space book that I have been craving for years. This book is this great combination of How to Train Your Dragon, Flight of the Navigator, Top Gun, and Ender's Game. Like, this is brilliant. I absolutely loved this novel. This is officially my favorite non-adult Brandon Sanderson book to date. And this was so well written. I really loved the characters that we met. There is no strong romance, which is really nice. That's something in young adult fiction that we don't see very often these days. There are hints of romance, but nothing strong, nothing solid. Our main character is basically just kind of oblivious to romantic things, which is really kind of nice. We don't have this boy crazy girl as our main character. We have somebody who is strong and truly brilliant. And, you know, it's not a chosen one kind of story, but she fights very hard to be the best at what she is. And I love that this book was not an easy ride for me. This book was such an emotional roller coaster. I laughed, I cried, I was laughing while I was crying. Like, this book made me think so much. And the ending was perfectly what I needed. It was messy. It's very clear that there's another book coming, which he's already submitted to his publishers, he's told us. So I am very much looking forward to the next book in this series. And one thing I thought was going to happen didn't, and I was really happy that it didn't. But I really like how all of this went down. Like, I talked a lot about the end of chapter 43 and how I was upset. Thankfully, that needed to happen for a reason. And the reason comes to fruition by the end of the book, and I'm okay with it. So, all in all, Skyward is 5 stars. This is probably the best space book I've read in 5 years. Easy, hands down. I loved this book. This is not going to be a book for everybody because it is such a character-driven, emotional story, even though you have plenty of action in this. But I can tell that this is not going to be something for everybody. And thankfully for me, it was my cup of tea and exactly what I needed. So anyways, Skyward's getting 5 stars from me. I highly and strongly suggest you pick this book up. And thank you guys for watching this vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions about Skyward, feel free to leave your questions down in the comments, or you can direct message me, usually on Twitter or Instagram. I tend to check them there the most. And thank you guys for watching. Again, if you're new, my name is Shay. Thanks for checking out my channel. I would love it if you would subscribe and hit the little bell icon so you know when to come hang out with me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.